Welcome to Koç University Design Lab. In this section, we are hosting a world-renowned Turkish architect, Hakan Award winner, Emre Arolat. Hello, Emre Bey.
Hello.
Nice to meet you. I'm very happy to host an architect because I am an old architect as well. So it's a very prestigious time for me to host you. Now our PhD students asking questions about design issues relating their own topic.
So as you mentioned in a video documentary in TRT, architecture is such a story that's closely intertwined with everyday life. It's in action when eating, when traveling, when listening to music, and in many other daily life activities. And also, the results of architectural production are mostly permanent, and in some cases, it's even monumental. This is actually more evident in historical areas when you work in historical areas, actually. So I was wondering, considering these two roles of architecture in everyday life and in urban texture, do you think this gives the architect a mission in forming culture and history? And from this perspective, can you evaluate the works of your office? From this perspective.
Yeah, of course. Actually, as architects, we are somehow adding, enlarging, and extending things to the earth itself, or sometimes carving, removing, or subtracting from the land surface. And yes, if nothing else, we are highly responsible to the terra firma. And although I'm not sure if this liability really gives the architect the responsibility to produce or to create, as you said, the culture and history from scratch, we should easily consider that a crucial role in the social. It's a very crucial role in the social environment. And no one can say that the architectural creation does not dictate anything significant. Not only when designing in historical areas, as you mentioned, but also in the urban context as well. We as architects are somehow penetrating into the hearts of the peoples, into the hearts of the people's lives as well, affecting their movements or taking decisions for their futures as well. And of course, as one of the maybe most productive group of architects in this geography, or in all EAA offices, in Istanbul, in London, or in New York, we are kind of highly aware of this massiveness of this duty. And I can easily say that regardless of the scale of the function or the function of the project, each and every design process is a kind of challenge. It's a kind of challenging adventure of discovery, I can say. And in this respect, a kind of multi-layered effort and reading, researching, and understanding is somehow undertaken in order to reveal the cultural collective and even the psychological features of the project. And of course, this is at the same time a reading that also includes social, economical, historical, and ideological factors. And I can assure you that kind of self-criticism is one of the most features components of this frantic operation in our office, in all our offices. And all of our existing works can easily get bitten during this process, and then we criticize them in a very bad way, believe me.
As a discipline, architecture is expected to follow up with trends and technology to fulfill the user's changing needs. But on the other hand, it also has a political and sociological context, sociological discourse of preserving its users' cultural heritage and memory. For example, in the Museum Hotel Antakya, you balance these factors very successfully by creating a timeless atmosphere for its users' changing needs, the current needs, and the building's collective memory. I wondered, what is your opinion on research-based architecture that involves users, and how might we implement this in our architecture practice?
Yeah, first of all, thanks for your nice words about Antakya Museum Hotel. Yes, as I explained earlier, our process of design can be considered as a pure research-based operation. We also are aiming to achieve highly user-friendly solutions during this course. In most of the cases, we do several site visits, organize workshops, even public surveys in order to understand, to learn and internalize the needs and the expectations of the future users or current users as well. Yes, it can be seen as one of the crucial and important ingredients of our design criteria basket, but frankly saying, it doesn't cover the whole of it, because I believe that architectural design is an extremely complex phenomenon, and it has, let's say, thousands of components. So as a brief answer, I can say that involving users to the process is a kind of, let's say, limited move. And this operation needs much more data from various fields, such as economic, social, environmental, philosophical, political, or many others. Some of them are purely, I can say that some of them are purely cognitive, and yet some others are sometimes emotional or even intuitional. So yes, it's a very important or very crucial issue. We always involve somehow the future expectations to our design criteria, but this is not at all. This is not the whole thing. Yeah.
In today's world, every area of our lives has become more and more online, and the pandemic has also accelerated this transformation, and we are in a very rapid transition period in today's world. Now we always do our meetings and research online to compare the past and present with an example. In the past, the architects of historical cathedrals used to work on the exact wooden models of those cathedrals for years. Only later, the real projects were built. With this digitalization, current architects also finalize their work with modeling softwares in front of the screens, and they can see the actual output after it is built. When we look at design areas outside the field of architecture, designers are dealing with the products similar to final products thanks to relatively smaller sizes, and they can work on a one-to-one model. What do you think about this difference, digitalization in architecture, let's say, when we consider this situation with its advantages and disadvantages? What should other design fields learn from the architecture's this practice?
Yes, as you're referring, we can say that normally the end product of the architectural field is relatively much bigger than most of the other design disciplines. But still it's physical, not volatile like in the music, for example, or let's say transient as in fashion design. On the other hand, I strongly believe that the object of architectural design is by far the most primitive one when you compare with the object of product, fashion, or industrial design. Yes, it's a huge one. It's relatively gigantic, but it's also dumb. I mean, even in this digital era, it's extremely motionless, as we all know. It's kind of big, fat, bulky thing, and still highly vulnerable, in my opinion, with full of mistakes, because I mean, they are all bunch of incorrigible faults, we can say. You know, the reason why the object of architecture is much more kind of embryotic than the others, I think the answer is very simple, because it is for once, just once, because the production field is nothing more than a land surface. It's a simple one. It's not a production field. I mean, it's a simple land, and the producers are by far, in my opinion, the less educated ones, and even with the computer-aided designs of today, it is produced as a new prototype always. But the pure thing is one of the end products as well. I mean, we can say that it's prototype, but it's an end product at the end of the day. So yes, the digitalization somehow affected architectural design process. We can say, in one hand, made it easier, faster, or maybe more complicated and less emotional in some cases as well. But I think it did not influence as it did in the other design fields. Okay, with a, let's say, with a more structural point of view, I can say that the others can learn from the failures of architectural object, and architecture has a lot to learn from the others' products, and it's even more valid in the era of digitalization. But with a more, let's say, existentialist approach, I strongly believe that there are still a considerable amount of teaching, a huge field of learning in architecture, but I hardly believe that they are related to the phenomenon of computerization.
Between all our example work, your work at Sancaklar Mosque is undoubtedly extraordinary, and probably you answered a lot of questions about it before. But this time I will try to ask a somewhat different question. The mosque is integrated into area, and the building is united the whole, and of course with some very bold details. As an engineer and a designer, I think a lot about how to integrate technology seamlessly into our daily lives. So what do you think about smart home technologies? From your perspective, do you think they have a real potential to be integrated into our daily lives and change them drastically?
Oh, yeah, yes, of course. I mean, they already did so. Personally, as a, let's say, non-enthusiastic user of this smart home technologies, I'm not very good on that. I'm sure that they will be kind of inseparable parts of our daily movements. I still believe that they are not even smart enough for the moment in these days. And I see lots of potentials on this field as well. But as you mentioned in your question, they should be somehow, in my opinion, seamless, yet authentic and invisible enough in order to become essential. I remember the first time that I saw a fax machine. It was very funny. I could not believe my eyes. But now we get nervous if we are offline even for a minute. I mean, this technology is not visible. It is quite invisible, but it's quite normal in our lives, in our normal lives now, and it's extremely effective as well. I'm sure that we will see things very shortly that we cannot imagine for now, and it's not too long. I mean.
Emre Bey, I have a last question to you. Designers who have reached a certain level are also aware that they have often risk repeating themselves because they have caught a certain style. What precautions do you take for yourself to avoid such a risk?
Yes, it's a danger. If you are somehow having a kind of very visible and like a signature style. Personally, I don't have something like this because I'm kind of a more contextualist architect than a signature architect. I mean, what I want to say about that, there are two kinds of design approach in architecture in these days. The first one, which is, in my opinion, more popular one, is like seeing or considered as creating objects. I mean, creating nice and good-looking objects even in architectural field. I don't believe something like this because I mean I'm a more believer of the power of context and every context is different and every situation is different. So it's a nice and the very challenging period for us to somehow internalize the specifics of this specific context and then learn from them, and then somehow taking some lessons and then afterwards kind of interpret the problems, and then afterwards finding some, let's say, relevant answers to all of these problems. So since every project and every context is different, and since the situation is every time different, I mean, the end product cannot be the same. If you are not so much, I mean, somehow having a kind of architectural style that you cannot forget about that. So since I'm not at that point, at that, let's say, at that field of thinking architecture, I don't feel very uncomfortable, and I don't think that we are somehow repeating ourselves. You know what, my partner is not very happy about that, because in all the projects, she is like the managing partner and I'm like the design partner, and she is always blaming me to create something different for every project. And it's not the best thing for the economics of your office, but it's the best thing for the economics of your brain, in my opinion.
Thank you so much. In this section, we hosted Hakan Award winner, Emre Arolat.